I never thought the simple act of buying a new rug would unravel the perfect fabric of my life. It all started on a rainy Tuesday in October. My wife, Sarah, had been after me for weeks to finally replace the worn-out Persian rug in our living room. That rug was a relic from my bachelor days, stained with memories and cheap beer. And according to Sarah, it was an eyesore that was holding our entire home's aesthetic hostage. So, that Tuesday, I found myself in a sprawling, labyrinthine furniture warehouse on the edge of town, a place called Haven Home Emporium. The air smelled of synthetic pine and new fabric. I was lost, both physically and in terms of rug selection. I'm a software engineer. My idea of interior design is making sure all the cables are tucked away neatly. After wandering past countless displays of identical-looking sofas, I stumbled upon the rug section. And there it was. It was beautiful, I'll give it that. A deep, navy blue with intricate silver patterns that seemed to shift in the fluorescent light. It was soft underfoot and, according to the tag, made from some rare, sustainably sourced wool. It was also ridiculously expensive. But I was tired, Sarah would love it, and I just wanted to go home. I flagged down a sales associate. That's when I met her. Mary. Her name tag said Mary, floor manager. She was probably in her late 20s, with kind eyes and a patient smile that immediately put my retail-anxious self at ease. Found one you like? She asked, her voice warm. I think so. This one, I said, pointing to the navy rug. Excellent choice. That's one of our premium pieces. A real statement. She proceeded to tell me about the artisan who wove it, the ethical sourcing, all the details that made the price tag slightly less offensive. She was knowledgeable and not at all pushy. We chatted for a few minutes as she processed the order. I mentioned my wife would be thrilled, and she smiled, saying, "It's always nice to make them happy, isn't it?" I paid, scheduled the delivery for that Saturday, and left feeling accomplished. The transaction was over, or so I thought. Saturday came. Two burly guys delivered the rug, unrolled it in our living room, and it was perfect. Sarah was over the moon. She kissed me, posted a picture on Instagram, and spent the rest of the day rearranging the furniture to complement it. Our neighbor, John, and his wife even popped over to admire it. Life was good. A week later, I was cleaning out my wallet, tossing old receipts, when I found a small, folded piece of paper tucked behind my credit card. It wasn't a receipt. It was a note, written in elegant, looping cursive. Your wife is a very lucky woman. I hope the rug brings you both years of happiness. If you ever need anything else for your home, don't hesitate to ask. Mary. Beneath her name was a personal cell phone number. I stared at it, confused. It was a nice gesture, I supposed. A bit unprofessional, maybe, but nice. I showed it to Sarah, laughing it off. Look, the rug lady gave me her number. Sarah glanced at it, smirked, and said, she probably just wants a repeat customer. Or maybe she has a thing for nerdy guys who can't tell azure from cerulean. We both laughed, and I tossed the note into the kitchen trash can. It was forgotten. Life continued its comfortable rhythm. Work, kids, weekend barbecues with John and his wife. John was a good friend. We'd been neighbors for 5 years. Our kids were the same age and inseparable. Our lives were neatly, happily intertwined. Then, about a month after the rug delivery, I was working late on a project. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown. Hi, Mark. It's Mary from Haven Home. I hope you don't mind me texting. I was just doing a follow-up on your rug purchase and wanted to ensure you were satisfied with the delivery and product. It was a little odd for a follow-up to come via personal text on a Saturday night, but I'm a trusting person. I wrote back. Me. Hi, Mary. No problem. The rug is great. My wife loves it. Thanks for checking in. Mary, I'm so glad to hear that. It really did look beautiful in our showroom. It suits a classic home like yours. Speaking of, We just got a new shipment of handcrafted lamps from Morocco. Very unique. If you're ever in the area, you should come take a look. The conversation was friendly, harmless. We exchanged a few more texts about home decor, and then it fizzled out. I didn't think much of it. She was just a friendly salesperson being good at her job. A few days later, another text. Mary, this is going to sound strange, but I was driving through your neighborhood, visiting a friend, and saw your house. The blue shutters look fantastic with that rug. You have a great eye. That one gave me pause. How did she know my address? The delivery, of course. The company had my address. Still, it felt closer, more personal. I didn't mention it to Sarah. Why would I? It was nothing. The texts became more frequent. She'd send me pictures of new inventory, ask my opinion on color palettes, tell me a funny story about a difficult customer. I started to enjoy it. It was a harmless, flattering distraction from the monotony of spreadsheets and school runs. I found myself looking forward to her messages. She was witty, sharp, and she made me feel interesting, seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. One evening, Sarah was out at a book club, and the kids were asleep. My phone lit up. Mary, tough day at the store. Sometimes I hate retail. Wish I was having a glass of wine on a patio somewhere instead. I stared at the message. This was the line. This was no longer about rugs or lamps. This was an invitation. A dangerous one. My finger hovered over the keyboard. I should have ignored it. I should have blocked the number. But I didn't. I felt a thrill, a jolt of adrenaline I hadn't felt since I was single. Me. Sorry to hear that. A glass of wine sounds good right about now. The response was immediate. Mary, does it? What are you drinking? And just like that, I crossed a line. Not physically, but in my heart. We texted for an hour. I told her about work stress. She told me about her dream to open her own boutique. It felt intimate. Wrong, but exhilarating. The next morning, guilt gnawed at me. I was quiet at breakfast. Sarah noticed. Everything okay, honey? You're miles away. Just tired, I mumbled. Big deadline at work. I decided to end it. This digital flirtation had gone too far. I drafted a text to Mary, something polite but firm, saying it was best we keep our communication professional. But before I could send it, my phone rang. It was John. Hey, Mark, you got a sec? I need a favor. Sure, what's up? My moron brother-in-law is in town and wants to go to that giant furniture warehouse, Haven Home. You know the one? You were just there. I hate that place, but I promised Mary I'd drive him. You're an expert now. Want to come with? Be my moral support. My blood ran cold. Mary. He said Mary. Mary. I managed to choke out. Yeah, my wife, Mary. She's making me do it, he said with a laugh. The world tilted. Mary. John's wife was Mary. Sweet, quiet, unassuming Mary who brought us casseroles when we were sick and whose biggest passion seemed to be her rose garden. It couldn't be. It had to be a coincidence. A terrifying, universe-shattering coincidence. Why, sure, I stammered. When are you going? This afternoon. Pick you up at 1. See you then, I said and hung up, my hand trembling. It had to be a different Mary. There was no way the woman I'd been texting was my neighbor, my friend's wife. The Mary the first knew war mom jeans and spent her weekends weeding flower beds. She wasn't a floor manager at a trendy furniture store. Was she? A frantic Google search confirmed my worst fear. I found her LinkedIn profile. Mary Peterson, floor manager, Haven Home Emporium. Her profile picture, professional and smiling, was undeniably the woman I had met. I felt sick. The world I thought I knew crumbled around me. The friendly texts, the flirting, it wasn't just a random salesperson. It was Mary, John's Mary, and I had participated. I had encouraged it. I was texting my neighbor's wife, my friend's wife, in the middle of the night, sharing intimacies. The ride to Haven Home was a special kind of torture. John chatted amiably about work, about the kids, completely oblivious to the storm raging inside me. When we pulled into the parking lot, my heart was hammering against my ribs. We walked in, and there she was, standing near the entrance, talking to another employee. She saw us, and her eyes met mine. For a split second, there was a flicker of something, shock, panic, fear, before her professional mask slid back into place. It was all the confirmation I needed. "John, Mark, what a surprise," she said, her voice a little too high. "Hey, honey, drag Mark along for the ride. This is my brother-in-law, Steve," John said, clapping the other man on the back. "Hi, Mary," I said, my voice tight. We spent the next hour trailing Steve as he looked at dining room sets. Every time I glanced at Mary, she was pointedly not looking at me. The air was thick with unspoken words. During a moment when John and Steve were debating the merits of solid wood versus engineered, she sidled up next to me. "We need to talk," she whispered, her voice low and urgent. "What is there to say, Mary?" I whispered back, my jaw clenched. "You know exactly what. Not here. Not now. But we need to talk about this." There was no fear in her voice now, only a cold, steely determination that terrified me more than anything else. The rest of the weekend was a blur of anxiety. I couldn't look at Sarah. I couldn't think about John. I was trapped in a nightmare of my own making. On Monday morning, as I was leaving for work, I found a sealed envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. No name. I tore it open. "Mark, we need to meet. The coffee shop on Elm Street. Today, 7 p.m. Come alone. We need to get our story straight." Our story straight? What stories? Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. This wasn't a request. It was a summons. And the implication was clear. There was a story that needed to be told, a narrative we had to align on. But for what? I went. Of course I went. I was in too deep. The coffee shop was quiet, nearly empty. She was already there, in a corner booth, 2 untouched coffees in front of her. She looked up as I approached, her face grim. "Sit down," she said. I slid into the booth. "Mary, what the hell is this? Get our story straight." "About what?" "About us," she said calmly, stirring her coffee. "There's no us," I hissed, leaning forward. There were some inappropriate texts. "That's it. We stop now, we forget it ever happened, and we never speak of it again." She smiled, a thin, humorless smile. "It's not that simple, Mark." "Why not?" "Because John knows." The floor dropped out from under me. "What? How?" "Did you tell him?" "No, but he's suspicious. He saw a text pop up on my phone the other night. From you. It was innocent enough, but he asked questions. He's not stupid." My mind raced. John was my friend. If he was suspicious... Oh, God. So we tell him the truth. We tell him we were texting about home decor and it got a little out of hand. We apologize. It's embarrassing, but it's not. It's not the end of the world. Her eyes locked with mine, and I saw something in them I hadn't seen before. Desperation and a flicker of malice. "I can't do that, Mark." "Why not?" "Because my marriage is hanging by a thread," she whispered, her voice cracking for the first time. "John and we haven't been good for a long time. It was a mistake, but if he finds out the extent of it, he'll leave me. He'll take the kids. I can't let that happen. So you're going to lie? What story are we supposed to get straight, Mary? That nothing happened? Because nothing did happen." "Not yet," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "But what if it had?" I stared at her, horrified. I was beginning to understand. She wasn't here to confess. She was here to conspire. She was building a firewall, and she was using me as the bricks and mortar. "What are you saying?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "I'm saying that if John confronts you, you tell him that I was just helping you pick out a surprise for Sarah. That's all. That the texts were all about that. You were stressed. I was helpful. End of story. You deny anything else. You act like he's crazy for suspecting anything more. And why would I do that? Why would I lie to my friend?" "To protect yourself," she said, her eyes hardening. "Because if you don't, If you so much as hint that there was anything more, I'll tell Sarah that you came on to me, that you've been harassing me with texts, that you pressure me at the store, and I was too scared to say no because you're John's friend. The air left my lungs. I felt like I'd been punched. You wouldn't. Try me, Mark, she said, her voice ice cold. My family is on the line. I will burn your life to the ground to save mine. It's your word against mine. Who do you think Sarah will believe? The neighbor she's known for years? The mother of her children's best friends? Or her husband, who's been acting distant and secretive for weeks? She was right. I had been distant. I had been secretive. I had hidden the texts. In the court of domestic opinion, I was already guilty. The truth, that it was a mutual digital indiscretion, was too nuanced. It would look like a pathetic excuse. I was trapped, completely and utterly trapped. I had walked into this willingly, naively, and now I was caught in a web spun by a woman who was far more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. So, do we have an understanding? She asked, finishing her coffee, as if we'd just closed a business deal. I nodded numb. I had no choice. Good. She stood up to leave, then paused. And Mark? Delete my number. All of it. She walked out, leaving me alone in the quiet cafe with the ruins of my integrity. The next few weeks were hell. Every time I saw John, I felt a wave of guilt and fear. I overcompensated, being overly friendly, asking about his work, offering to help with the backyard project. He was normal, a little quieter, perhaps, but he didn't confront me. I didn't know if Mary's lie had worked, or if he was just biding his time. The tension was unbearable. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. The weight of the secret was crushing me. I was a coward, protecting myself with a lie, betraying my friend twice over. The breaking point came at a neighborhood block party. It was a warm summer evening. Kids were running through sprinklers, grills were smoking, music was playing. A facade of perfect suburban life. I was standing with Sarah and John, forcing a laugh at some joke when Mary walked over, holding a plate of burgers. She smiled at everyone, the picture of suburban grace. She handed John a burger, then turned to me. Here you go, Mark, she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. Our fingers brushed as I took the plate. It was an innocent, accidental touch. But in that moment, something inside me snapped. I saw the flicker of triumph in her eyes. She had won. She had control, and she knew it. And I couldn't live like this anymore. This lie was a poison, and it was killing me from the inside out. I took a deep breath. The chatter around me seemed to fade into a dull roar. John, I said, my voice louder than I intended. Sarah, we need to talk. Now. The smile froze on Mary's face. John looked at me, confused. What is it, man? You look like you've seen a ghost. I have, I said, my eyes locked on Mary's panicked ones. I need to tell you both the truth. I didn't wait for a private moment. I didn't care about the neighbors nearby. The dam had broken. I've been texting Mary, I said, my voice shaking but clear. It started about the rug, but it became something else. Inappropriate texts. Late at night. I participated. I'm so sorry. I'm ashamed of what I did. What happened? And when I found out it was our Mary, I was horrified. She asked me to lie to you, John, to say it was all about a surprise for Sarah. She threatened to tell Sarah that I harassed her if I didn't go along with it. The silence that fell over our little group was deafening. Sarah's face was a mask of shock and dawning horror. John's was a slow-burning fire of betrayal and rage. He turned to Mary. Is this true? He asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Mary stared at me, her face white with shock and fury. She opened her mouth to deny it, to spin another lie, but the look on John's face stopped her. The evidence was there, in our phones, in our guilty consciences. The truth, ugly and raw, was finally out in the open. She didn't answer. She just turned and ran into the house. The block party dissolved around us. John left without another word, his world shattered. Sarah was crying, asking me how I could do this, how I could be so stupid. I had no good answers. I had been stupid. I had been weak. I had sought validation in a dangerous place and nearly destroyed everything that mattered to me. The fallout was nuclear. John filed for divorce immediately. Mary moved out of the neighborhood. My marriage was pushed to the brink. Sarah and I entered intensive couples counseling. It was a long, painful road filled with tears, anger, and brutal honesty. I had to account for every text, every moment of weakness. I had to rebuild the trust one had shattered with my selfishness and cowardice. We sold a house. The beautiful navy rug was the first thing we packed away. We couldn't look at it anymore. We moved to a new town, a fresh start. My relationship with Sarah is different now. It's harder, more conscious. The blind trust is gone, replaced by a hard-won, deliberate commitment. We're still together, but the scar from that time will always be there. I lost a friend. I nearly lost my family, all because of a rug and a moment of weakness. I learned a brutal lesson, that the threads of our lives are fragile, and sometimes the most beautiful patterns can hide the most dangerous snags.